interviews reward performers, not producers.
Ooh.
I mean, the truth is charisma gets people hired.
Yes.
But competence is what keeps them employed.
Right.
Yeah.
When the church say amen.
And I think we pulled up his resume on the computer. And I was reading it like, who is this person?
Right.
I would hire this guy.
Oh, after he was rehomed.
Correct. We were cleaning out his computer.
Right, okay.
And like, deleting stuff and rebooting his computer for a new person.
Right.
And on the computer was his resume.
Oh, wow, okay.
And I just was like reading the resume like, who is this?
Right.
We're on our way to see the wizard. Not yet.
Okay.
I need to get back out there. I need to get, the weather's been fickle.
Yeah.
So
Business podcast.
it's been all over the place.
yeah, I mean, it's been nice, but then you think it's gonna be nice and it's not. But
And it rains.
I need to fire up the old racket.
The old paddle.
Need to get the old legs out there. Are you gonna play?
I will go with you. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I'll go with you.
Oh, done then. Oh, good. We'll go right. Okay, perfect.
Yeah, I'll go with you.
Okay.
I got to watch the.
Have you played yet?
No.
Okay. Oh, well, you'll watch a video.
I'll watch the video.
Okay.
Figure it out.
Oh, okay. Well, that's on then. All right.
I'll go with you.
Your ass all over the place. I can't wait.
I get out and play golf.
Is this thing on? Oh, we're recording.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
This is great. Yes, I'm excited now.
Look, I've thought about doing it for a couple of years, and I just haven't really.
Oh, okay, good. This is done. Done deal. We're going to make this happen. I love it.
We'll get out.
Folks, welcome, welcome, welcome. You are at the right place. Don't mind our little banter. I was just officially indoctrinating LG into pickleball.
Yeah.
And it's going to be exciting now.
It'll be
He's going
fun.
to come out and it's going to be youth versus youth. Youth versus experience. Is that
Experience, correct. Right.
I'm youthful. No, we're both youthful. I'm going to put those knees to work though, buddy.
Like we've talked about in previous episodes about trying something new.
Yes.
I haven't played pickleball before, so
good.
this would be an
This is
opportunity for
perfect.
me to try something new.
This is perfect, and I will be very, very sure to not go easy on you at all.
100%.
So
you better
it will
wear
be
me
my
out
mission.
early because once I figure
I
it
might-
out,
maybe we'll bring Willie H out and set up a tripod on
There
this.
you go.
So we
Yeah.
have some live
Right.
replay of this here.
Yeah.
That's gonna be good.
yeah.
Well, folks, don't change that dial. We are actually here to talk about business and helping you grow your business.
Indeed.
This is the Grow Business Podcast. I'm your host, Corey Mosley. Joined by co-captain LG777 Lon Graham is in the building.
Voice of reason.
And we've got Willie H making it all work.
Hit the buttons, William.
All right, we're all here. We got through the pleasantries.
Yep, we did.
Buy my book, Position for Growth. I normally ease into it.
Right. Nah,
Well,
straight-
folks, we're here to do one thing. We put it in the name. We're here to help you grow your business. If you are successfully running a business, or maybe you're having some challenges, but you are in business, you've got employees, contractors, you're working with people to build even a business of one. I mean, we just want you to be in business. We're not a startup show. So, some of the strategies and tactics we talk about, some of those require investment. Some of those require you to do certain things that, you need to have the capacity to do. So we welcome you here. If you're in the C-suite, if you influence the growth of your organization or business, this is a show that will also, we believe, help you do that. So we welcome you to it. Now, we base our strategies and our tactics. We're not here to be your gurus. We're making observations. We're taking some things that are working for us in our businesses, in our daily lives, and the organizations that we're impacting, and we're putting it out to the world, right? As our right now labor of love, to do this. But we base that on the 5 principles of business growth, or the 5 pillars of business growth, which we believe every business growth challenge falls within one of these 5 pillars. LG is going to tell us what they are.
Yeah, thank you, Corey. So they're
You're welcome.
Mindset, sales, marketing, operations, and people.
That's right. That's what we target here. And you can learn more about that in my latest book, Position for Growth, available on Amazon right now. Continues to do well. So says the royalty checks.
There you go.
So
that's right.
If you enjoyed that cup of coffee I bought you earlier today,
Thank you.
That was the royalty check. So
thank you for the
just
people
know
who
that I
bought your
just know
book
that
for
I
that.
share.
Right.
Just know that I'm here to share.
That's right.
But in all seriousness, today I want to talk about an important topic. And today we're going to focus on pillar number 5, which is people.
Okay. Yeah.
And what we're going to be talking about today is don't get sold in the interview.
Lord have mercy.
I want to give you some strategy on how to hire right and avoid train wreck employees, freelancers, contractors, and others that you may let in your business.
Excellent.
Okay? Because here's the truth. Some of your worst hires didn't look like bad hires.
Right.
They looked like rock stars in the interview,
Yeah.
right? They said all the right things. They had all the right energy, and then completely fell apart when you brought them in.
Yeah.
The truth is, hiring mistakes are usually not about resumes. They're about being sold instead of actually evaluating.
Okay. Like it.
So we're going to talk about that. We're going to break down some steps on how to not get fooled in interviews and start making smarter, more predictable hires. You know, you've hired a few train wrecks in your day.
Yes, I have.
You know?
Yes, I have.
I mean,
yeah.
it happens, right?
Yeah. And here's the reality of it. And I'm excited to have this conversation because people are such an important part of our business, of all of our businesses. It is, we're going to talk about, I think we're going to talk about reducing the risk of hires. The reality of it, though, is you're never going to be 100% right. So you have to be willing to hire. And what you want to do is you want to get better at hiring so you can reduce the risk of a bad hire.
There you go. All right.
This might be a guy I want to work with.
It may be.
There you go.
LonGraham.com. Let's get a plug in.
Yeah,
6 minutes.
perfect. Yep.
6 minutes in.
I got you.
LonGraham.com. That's right. That's right. You know, I come from, obviously I spent 15 years in the industry that, sometimes the owner said simple things to me like, Corey, if I can just get somebody to show up that's not drunk,
Right.
I would hire them. Here, fog this mirror.
Right.
You're breathing. You're hired.
Right.
We're going to give you a shot. So the rules have kind of changed in terms of how we're looking about going about looking for quote unquote good people to add to the team. And it's a whole nother episode. You want good people, you need to be a good employer. Let's just we'll bake that in as inherent here in this conversation.
Correct.
So first thing to talk about is interviews themselves. Interviews reward performers, not producers.
Ooh.
Yeah, I want to let that one. Interviews are designed for people who are good at talking, not necessarily good at doing.
Right.
So, we need to rethink that whole lot. Not that you stop. Oh, God, the Grow Business Podcast told me to stop doing interviews. No, but understanding the context in terms of what people are trying to get out of there, because you typically will end up by oh, great, you hit it. I hit it off with them.
Right.
I think they're gonna do great. We hit it off.
Right.
Really like that guy.
Yeah.
Right. We both like fishing.
Which, you say it that way, Corey, and, you and I have a long history in sales.
Right. And I'm a talker. So, I'm a talker.
So we interview people that are salespeople that have that.
Sure. Right.
That have that,
if you can put me together, you should be able to put somebody else together.
Correct. Right. I mean, we think about that, and salespeople tend to be connectors.
Right. Sure.
If they're any good.
Yes.
If they're any good. And so this is going to be a great episode.
Yeah. I mean, high energy candidates will win the room.
Yes.
Right. So confident communicators sound competent.
Right.
Right. He speaks so well. He's so well spoken. He's articulate. He's all these things. So, the problem though is that someone's sourcing people, and I want to give clarity to this. So you don't tune out. Not everyone's hiring full-time employees.
Right.
You're working with freelancers in your business. You're working with contractors. You're working with people short term that can do a specific skill. They're still part of your team. So it's very important when I talk about hiring. Hiring is not distinctive to W-2 employees.
Right.
Right? It's anybody that's interacting with your business for the benefit of helping you maintain, build, grow your business. Those are people in your ecosystem, right? Your bookkeeper is an employee in a different format.
Right.
So, having good synergy, being able to communicate with them, knowing that they're competent, being able to perform their job. So the first thing I have to say is stop mistaking personality for performance.
Yep. Yeah. And I would say too, Corey, to add to what you just said about who we're talking about hiring.
Right.
If you're paying people to work for you or with you, then this is going to be an episode for you.
I talked to a guy, he reached out to me for some advice that I hired for a client 15 years ago. And he came in, I thought his khakis were too tight. He had piercings. He had kind of wild hair. And I just don't know. There was just something, in terms of, I looked past, like I didn't make a judgment.
Right.
And I'm so pleased. Now he's with another employer, but that was through not his own. They sold he stayed with the organization that bought where he worked.
Okay.
So he literally has stayed at the same job and been there now raising a family, got married, the whole thing. He was young when he came to me. And is still there doing that job.
That's awesome.
No none of the millennial curse or the jumping around or all those things. But if you looked at him, you would have said, "Oh, that guy's not going to be great." It's a phone job, being able to do sales and business development on the phone.
Right.
I don't know, this could go either way. Is he going to be flighty? Is he going to be wishy-washy? But I was really focused on the elements of what he was saying, what I in my assessment of it, not just is this a guy I want to hang out with me. We're probably not going to be at the same concerts, but from a comedy level. So it was almost like a point of pride.
Sure.
To hear from him and hear he was doing well and
awesome.
Still thankful just for the opportunity 15 years ago.
Right.
You know
That's
what I
awesome.
mean? To train him and then kind of bring him into the business. So, from a strategic standpoint here, when we're talking about this as that topic level, right, as it relates to interviews, you have to shift your mindset from do I like them to can they produce results?
Right. Yeah.
I
thought you were going to get something for that.
It's a thankless life.
Yeah, and that's an important piece, Corey, because can they produce results? Well,
What have they actually done?
Well, and before you even go into the interview, what are the results you want them to produce?
Right. Sure.
Which is how it guides your interview process.
I'm going to tell you, I had a guy work for me, and I probably told this story before, but that guy worked for me, and he was rehomed.
Okay.
I read a guy I know wrote that about some employees.
Oh, okay.
He does like a month recap, and he's like, we had 10 salespeople do this and do that, and we rehomed 3 people. Like that's what he calls it. Like I love it. It's like this fancy word.
That's fine.
But anyway, we pulled up his resume on the computer, and I was reading it like, who is this person?
Right.
I would hire this guy.
Oh, after he was rehomed.
Correct. We were cleaning out his computer.
Right, okay.
And deleting stuff and rebooting his computer for a new person.
Right.
And on the computer was his resume.
Oh, wow, okay.
And I just was like reading the resume like, who is this?
Right.
He must have his name pasted it on somebody else's resume because oversaw responsibilities of 300% growth in the dedicated segment. I'm like, huh?
Right.
I mean, the only thing worse than lies is damn lies.
Right.
As far as
so
I'm
good.
concerned.
That's
So
good.
I don't know.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah. So to your point,
Right.
what have they actually done? What measurable outcomes did they create here?
Right.
You know, and again, force specificity
Yes.
in the question, right?
Right.
Like, you noted that you did this. Walk me through
Right.
exactly how you did that.
Yeah. You know, it goes back to when we were growing up, and may have been when you were growing up too, that when, especially in elementary school, we were learning math. The teacher said, show your work.
Right. Right.
That's
sure.
what we're talking about.
Sure.
Show
Yes,
your work.
Yes.
How did you
Yes.
get there?
Yes.
Now, once you show me that you can get there, then you can use the calculator, but show your work so that I
Yes.
know how you got there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what was you were on this team or
Right.
whatever. What would you say was your personal contribution
Right.
to the team?
Yeah, and I like one of the things, you know, everybody's got their own style, and it depends on what type of job you're interviewing them for. But, you know, I've had people, I like a conversational style. I like to be able to talk to people so that they're more willing to open up and talk about what they've done and how they got there. And they've, you know, created an environment where you can have some comfortable conversations. There's other people that are aggressive in their interview process. They want to make the interview as difficult as possible.
Right.
Sometimes if the job requires that, well, that's necessary. But understand your style and understand how people are going to respond to your style so that when you're talking to them, are you giving them an opportunity to really describe how that they would do it, or are you creating an environment for them to be defensive?
Right.
And now because they're defensive, they have to start getting creative.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that. I mean, the truth is charisma gets people hired,
Yes.
but competence is what keeps them employed.
Right.
Yeah.
When the church say amen.
And I think so. It's having that greater awareness to that going into the process,
Right.
which leads into number 2,
Okay.
which is stop asking hypothetical questions, right? Because hypotheticals create fake competence.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So, you know, what would you do if, Lon,
Right.
an assailant came in the building right now and you're hiring for a security job? Like,
Right.
what would you do if, or how would you handle?
Right.
Because one of the things that these invite is rehearsed questions.
Right. When
In the car business, if you would ask customer, what are you driving now? Oh, what are you looking to do with that vehicle? You looking to trade it?
right.
Oh, no, I don't know what I'm going to do with it right now. Well, then I knew that they read some book
Right.
that said, don't tell the car salesman what you're going to do with your trade.
Right.
Because here's what I know. You got 36 more payments left.
Right.
So unless you're telling me you can make 2 car payments,
Right.
you know that you're going to need to trade this vehicle in. So why don't we just stop playing the games?
Right.
But like there are triggers, there are things that I know. If I am in a Barnes and Nobles or I am in the grocery store somewhere, if I am in the grocery store and I'm going to get orange juice and somebody wanders up on me, you know where I've told you this before, and someone wanders up on me and asks me for a recommendation on orange juice, or if I'm in the book aisle at Barnes and Nobles and someone's like, oh, is that a good book that I'm holding in my hand?
Right.
I know I'm about to be invited to a meeting.
Right.
It used to be at the Sheridan
Right.
where they sit you up front row. Now it's on Zoom.
Right.
But I'm going to be invited to some opportunity to be financially free
Right.
because job is just over broke. And somebody's dropping off a copy of The Magic of Thinking Big.
Oh, there you go.
And they're getting me to, and they want to see if I want to go diamond, double diamond, or eagle. Because that is straight from the script,
Yeah.
right?
100%.
So it's the same thing here with your interview questions.
Right.
Tell us about your most difficult situation, how you handled it. Right? Go ahead.
And then what happened? Then they lie about
And we're
what
all,
happened.
I don't do your thing, standing in front of the gram in the mirror, the
Right.
thing that you say. But I just say we're all guilty of this somewhere. I've hired plenty of people and interviewed plenty of people. I've been guilty of all of it. Judging.
Part of what the examples that we're using are our real life examples.
As usual.
We're
usual.
We're talking about what we've done and what we haven't done well.
Yeah.
One of the things when I was in the airline industry and I was getting interviewed for a leadership role, they asked a very real question. So this wasn't a made up question. This is what this role is going to have to deal with immediately. And they said, what is knowing that you haven't had to deal with this because you haven't been in this leadership role.
Right.
How do you think about approaching it? Not what would you do, but what are the things that you would consider as you approach this problem?
Right.
Because it was a personnel problem and it was something that I would need to deal with walking in. And it was like, okay, so what are the things that you're going to bring in? Who are you going to involve? What are you going to draw from? And those are great questions on, here's a real problem. Yeah. Not what would you do, but what would you consider to come up with a decision about what to do?
Yeah, and that's not to confuse though. So is a good critical thinking pathway, a behavioral pathway, right?
100%.
That then gets combined with like past based questions,
right?
Or like you said, behavioral driven questions. So instead of how would you handle X, tell me about a time you had to, right? Like you had to deal with a difficult client,
correct?
Like what happened,
right?
Did you just say it's above me now? It's above me now.
I call my supervisor.
It's above me now, right? Or describe a time that you missed a goal.
Right.
What did you do? So now it makes them draw on that versus if the sky started falling, what like that kind of thing, to add to your point structurally.
100%. And one of the things that is super helpful is to get them to talk through their thought process. Get them to talk about how did you think about it? When you talk about you went after a goal and you didn't achieve it, like what did you consider? How did you think about it? What did you do based on what you knew? Right. And then going back, now that you're on the other side of it, what would you do different? Those are things that, talk about problem solving, especially, well, I mean, every role has a problem solving component to it. Understanding how people deal with challenges and learn from challenges and come up with ways to solve problems.
No, I love that. And you really broke it down. Like, what was the outcome in the situation? Right. What did you learn? Exactly what you said. And then also, what would you do differently?
Right.
So do they have an element of hindsight or is there no accountability to it? Right. Or was this a manager, people start, why'd you leave your last job? Oh, the manager sucked.
Right.
Okay. I mean, that could be very well true. Right. But again, the challenge here is also to evolve your thinking.
Correct.
The purpose here is for you to think about your approach to hiring differently post this conversation, and to challenge that thinking. So, and I said, as you move through what you were guilty of, that we might have been guilty of. I mean, there was a time where I wouldn't hire somebody when I was managing in the auto dealerships. I wouldn't hire a person if their resume said they worked at one of the competitors that we knew were that were like not on the up and up, that were unscrupulous, that, were getting sued and like we knew we had problems. If they said if that dealership was on their resume, I wouldn't even talk to them because I'm like, all the bad habits, you can't bring that stuff here. We don't do business that way. Right. Now, completely unfair. Because what if they had the best intentions to go there, found out it was not a great place to work, and now all they're trying to do is get to a better home? Right. So complete rookie, I was 22 years old at that time. And like, as I'm going back to that, I was 22 years old making these managerial decisions and hire. No one ever trained me. Interviewing's a skill.
100%.
Right? So no one ever trained me on that.
Right.
And obviously most small business owners, if you got a 3-person business or a 5-person business or a 10-person business, you probably don't have an HR department or somebody skilled in that. 100%. I built this on my blood, sweat, and tears. I know good people when I see them. I mean, like, that you take on that, I got to make all this, I got to do everything mentality from a particularly small business in there. So they don't rise, people don't rise to the level of their answers, right? Their answers are always better. They ultimately fall to the level of their habits.
Right. And I think a good way to describe what you're talking about, Corey, because we've all done some version of that. Well, you came from there, I'm not going to hire you.
Yeah.
Is separate where they were and standards. Make it about your standards and what are you willing to accept. And you can distinguish that in the way you ask questions.
Right.
So if you're talking about, you talk about, well, I had a bad boss. Well, why was he bad? Because he was a lie, cheat, and a steal.
Right.
Well, that's a standards answer.
Right.
Not he treated me bad.
Right, sure.
Or she treated me bad.
Yeah.
And so ask questions in relation to your standards. And the way in order for you to be able to do that, you have to understand what your standards are.
Right.
What you're willing to accept and what you're not willing to accept before you go into the interview. You talk about desperate hires, and we may have a conversation about that later. But if you don't understand your standards, whether you're desperate to hire somebody or not, you don't have a clear understanding of your standards, you're at risk of making a bad decision.
Right. Voice of reason.
I like how you got something, and I had that whole line drop there, but the disrespect is real. Okay.
Disrespect is real.
I'll take that under advisement. All right, number 3. Build a real world test before you hire.
Yeah.
If you don't test them, you're guessing. So, and again, this is dependent. Obviously, you need to mold this around what it is we're talking about here in terms of the hiring. So, for example, when we look for creative people, we say, hey, here's our stuff, here's our brand, here's this. If you're interested in bidding on this or joining the team, send us. You're gonna have to put in some work to submit a sample,
right?
And then based on the sample, we'll do that. So, again, that's perfect on marketing, right? So review and approve something real. Look at something real they can do. A sales hire,
right?
Now maybe you do some mock sales calls,
right?
So not necessarily training on a customer, but have them do a run through. With a real person. That could be a friend, that could be another colleague, somebody, not necessarily this, but hey, call and pitch this person and let them assess how they're pitching. We send in, in the retail world, we'll send in people that work at the same brand but different stores into the other stores to mystery shop because they know what to look for. Right. So we say, were you greeted properly? They know what the proper greeting is because they have to do it elsewhere.
Correct.
Did the flavor profile, did the things taste? So we're doing that like as a practical example there. On the admin side, give them an actual task.
Yeah.
Right. Get this booked or get this itinerary or build this agenda or whatever. In terms of trying that out. So you can look at the quality of work. You can look at speed. You can look at communication. You can look at what the follow through is and the follow up. I have a buddy. We nicknamed him Waterboard. if you're his lead and he's working you, you're getting like the term buy or die is real. You're getting waterboard. He will waterboard you with follow up. Until you whether come to fruition and buy something or you don't.
Yeah. One of the things that I do and still do is, as a sales leader, I hire a lot of salespeople, and I'm in the outside sales world. I would take a candidate with me to go see clients, and not to sell them, but to see how they interact, and how the clients respond, how they respond to the clients.
Yeah, classic.
Do a ride along.
Yeah.
And then,
but is that before you hired them?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do it as I do it for a couple of reasons. One, I did it to create value for my clients, to say, I value you as a client. I value your opinion on people that I'm interviewing.
Right.
Give me, and it's that old Malcolm Gladwell blink, 15-second response, right? What you think is typically right. And so I would do that and also see if it's an outside sales role, I got to see how this person's going to engage with my clients.
Right.
So are they at least able to have a conversation? I'm not asking them to sell anything. I'm not asking them to pitch anything, But what I am asking them to do is engage with my clients.
Right.
And can you have an intelligent conversation with an intelligent person?
Yes.
And that gets them out of the office. I talk about this a lot. If you don't have the capacity to get them, especially salespeople, if you don't have the capacity to get them on a sales call, get them out of the office and in a neutral environment where you're not comfortable and they're not comfortable. Go to different places so you both have to respond to different stimuli.
And here's the key. If they resist doing the test, there's your answer.
Correct.
Red flag, flag on the field.
Correct. Right.
We're going to make that a voice drop there. Flag on the field. Right? And it's a red flag. So, resumes can tell a story, but the truth or the test can reveal the truth of the situation.
Right.
So, so if you're interviewing somebody that's from the fake it till you make it ilk, they're gonna have a tough time.
Right.
Right. This is this because it costs money to hire people, train people, replace people.
Yes.
Whether it's ads or training time. A lot of times, time we don't account for dollars and cents with time, but taking the time to train somebody is dollars and cents. The next thing here, number 4, is look for patterns, not one-off wins.
Okay.
Right? So we're looking for the history. Now, I understand if you're giving a 15-year-old their first job, you got to, but what curriculum, what activities?
Right.
When I was going to my first job, I was in the TSA, I was in the Model UN, I was in the Catholic Speaking Forensics League.
Right.
So, me being one of my first jobs was at Godiva.
Right.
So, and working the polo counter at Hex.
There you go.
Now Macy's. But, so it was still my first job. They still had to make a kind of bet on me, but I had history.
Right.
Whether that was my report card.
Correct.
Right. Well, I didn't lead with that. But, A students work for B students, C students own the company.
Right.
But so we didn't lead with the scholastic. My kids on honor roll bumper sticker. But there were other things that fit the personality. Said, oh, well, this guy, this kid is, competing in speaking competitions. He's doing this, so he's not afraid to work with customers or be vocal or be out. So again, you can make those. So just depending on that tier, depending on the depth of the job, but the goal is repeatable success patterns. So, what's a system or process that you've used multiple times? What results have you consistently produced? I'll talk about some red flags, green flags in a second, but I'm going to give you the opportunity to weigh in.
Well, you're absolutely right, Corey. You're talking about systems and thought processes, and I think those run in parallel lanes. Like, how do you think about what you do, and then how do you execute on what you do? And knowing that every activity or action isn't going to lead to success, understand how do you do the next thing when you've stumbled or when you've struggled or stubbed your toe or whatever you want to call it. So these systems and processes are so important, and so is thought process. We're talking about people, but we're also talking about mindset. Right. How do you think about, as we're talking about people, how do they think about going after and doing these things?
So, red flags.
Yep.
Vague answers. Blaming others for failures.
Right.
Or also an inconsistent track record.
Right.
Listen, if you're out there finding yourself, no problem. You just can't do that here. I'm not here to be part of your journey.
Right.
Right. To find yourself.
Right.
I need somebody who could do X, Y, or Z.
Right.
Specifically.
Right.
I'll give it a try. Flag on the field.
Lord have mercy.
Green flags.
Okay.
Clear ownership.
Right.
Right? They can demonstrate repeatable methods.
Right.
They have measurable outcomes. I did this and then this happened.
Right.
And there could be other factors that contribute to it something being wildly successful or not.
Right.
But I still want it there. And here's the nuance to this. The nuance to this is to look at not hiring somebody for what they've done once, but hiring them for what they can do repeatedly.
Let the church say amen.
Very appropriate.
So I like that, Corey. I'm going to give a little bit different perspective on what you just said.
Okay.
And I say this to sales.
Don't oppose what I'm saying.
I'm not opposing
I'm just
it.
kidding.
No.
Kidding.
I'm not opposing
I'm
what I'm
just
saying
kidding.
is this is a cautionary
It was
tale.
good seeing Lon Graham.
That's exactly.
Lon Graham will be back at a later date. I'm just go ahead. He's still trying to get his point out. He's not even he's trying not to break from. He's just trying to let me finish so he can finish his thought. Go. I'm sorry. Go ahead. You have the floor.
Remember this. What you just talked about. They want people. You want to see demonstrated success over time, right? Remember this though. Talent transfers. Success doesn't. Meaning, and this is a higher level hire. What I mean by that is a lot of times you'll say, okay, I need this in my organization, and there's somebody that works for a competitor that is successful in our space, and so I'm just going to go out and get that competitor because they're successful.
Right.
Well, recognize that they have talent, and the environment that they're in contributes to their success. Can you recreate that environment for them, or recreate an environment for them that they can be successful? Because we talk about bad hires. I've hired somebody who was successful in another organization for certain reasons. They had talent. I hired their talent. They weren't successful for us for a combination of reasons.
Right.
You look at pro football coaches, college basketball coaches all over. The athletic department didn't support them in the same way.
Got it.
So talent will transfer. Make sure that you can create an environment where they can be successful with you like they are in another organization.
Maybe this guy can help me.
I like it. All right. Here's the final one.
Yep.
Hire for ownership, not excuses. So train wreck employees almost always lack ownership. Also known as taking responsibilities.
Right.
What does that look like? Blame the past employers. Always playing the victim.
Right.
Has a reason for everything that went wrong.
Right.
Now, if you think for a moment and we take a pregnant pause, as they say,
Okay.
we can almost like a moment of silence. We can all think of, if you are in the capacity where you have had to hire in your career, we can probably all for a moment think of a single or series of people that fall in that category. And if you think right now and you go, man, that sounds like,
Oh, yeah.
insert the blank.
Correct.
Every listener right now that's ever had to hire can think of that insert the blank person or persons.
Yeah. Yeah, it's that victim mentality, right?
Yeah.
They did it to me.
I mean, listen, I had someone work for me for years that everything, it was the end of days every day.
Right.
One of the only people I knew that could have conflict just coming to work.
Right.
If nothing happened to this person on the way to work, it was a miracle.
Right.
Someone can't drive, someone cut them off, someone pissed them off at the Starbucks, somebody in line, somebody said something stupid. It was 24/7.
Right.
And for years, we made it comical. Oh, that's just so-and-so being so-and-so. But it was really toxic.
Yeah.
Work with me, brother. Work with me.
No doubt.
And it rubs off. It rubs off.
Yeah. But again, interviewed very well. And presented, very well. So here's a strategy in this last one, right? It's taking a mentality and approach to screening for accountability.
Right.
Right? That's what we're saying here. Again, tell me about something that didn't go right. What was your role in that?
Right.
Oh, well, I dropped the ball on this, that, and the other. Or I was doing my job. It was everyone that wasn't doing their job. I mean, again, you got to process that. I mean, two things could be true.
Correct.
Right, at the same time. I mean, excuses are still facts if they're true. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, I was late because there was a 6-car pileup. I was late.
Right.
And I was late because the 6-car pileup is an excuse, but it is also a fact.
It's true. Correct.
Right? So, okay, how can I have avoided that? Oh, I could have left earlier, not knowing that today was the day of the 6-car pileup. Like, so, what would your last boss say you need to improve? And it gives people an opportunity. It really does give you an opportunity to be honest. And, again, it's not right or wrong answer, but it starts to give perspective, because what you're listening for is them taking ownership. You're listening for self-awareness.
Right.
Gary Vee talks about a lot, right? Being self-aware about things. And you're looking for the mindset. And if they have a growth mindset or not.
Right.
Bingo.
Yeah.
Yeah. You said some variation of this a minute ago. Like skills, you said something about them being transferable. Skills can be trained. Ownership can't come to mirror what you were talking about before,
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Yeah. One of the things I'll say, as we're getting close to wrapping this up, the people that we're targeting that are listening to this podcast are either in growth mode or want to be in growth mode, and are in businesses with an eye on growth. And in order to grow your business, you do need to add people. That's part of the reality of growth.
Right.
I say that to say this: if you are a business that is either eyeing growth or in the middle of growth or designed for growth, don't wait till you need people to start thinking about who you want to hire and what you need.
Right.
Create, we talk about standards, create your standards, establish if you know that at some point you're going to want to turn over a piece of responsibility to somebody, or you're going to create a new section in your business. Start thinking about that before you need that person, and start coming up with what you want to be in that person.
Yeah.
And talk to people before you need them. Because when you're interviewing somebody because you need somebody, you're more likely to be desperate. And you've talked about this before, desperate hires.
Yes, that's right.
If you
rescue hires.
Yep, that's exactly right. So don't wait until you need somebody, because if you wait till you need somebody, you're probably too late anyway, and you're going to be making desperate decisions.
No, I like that. I think you've teed up a bonus. I think we're going to do a bonus.
Okay.
Jeffrey Gitomer always does the 0.1.
There you go. Yes.
Yeah, I think you've teed up a 5.1 based on what you're saying. I was going to end it there, but I think the message here is slow down the hire to speed up the outcome.
Ooh.
Woo.
When the church say amen.
And the context is like fast hires create slow problems.
Right.
So I think this multi-step thing, I think multi-step, like your initial screening, then the deep interview, then the practical test, and then you have that final conversation, right? It creates an opportunity for you to have a full view of things. And I think those steps, the in-between, now I think you create some opportunities for emotions to settle. Also to reevaluate, like objectively.
Correct.
If I'm meeting with a team and we're trying to make a decision, you talk, deliberate, and you step back and you let that settle.
Right.
Let's come back to this on Wednesday.
Right.
And now see how we feel about it, or we've had time to change our positions, or because people go with their knee-jerk reaction and then they'll go defend that necessarily, and then don't have the pride or wherewithal or ownership to come back and say, oh, you know what? I think differently about it.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
And when you are thinking about hiring people, when you're thinking about what you want in hires, what you end up doing is you end up identifying people outside of the normal interview process.
Yeah.
You may meet somebody
Or that you feel, I just feel connected.
like that person has things I'm looking for. Let me explore that.
Right.
Outside of, because what that does is when you're in natural environments, you end up getting more realistic conversations and more realistic engagement, which reveals more of who they are, which is really what you're trying to find out when you're interviewing for somebody.
Yeah, I mean, I think the one thing people get wrong is the cost of a bad hire is not the salary or the expense or any of that. The cost of a bad hire is a drag on the entire business.
Yes.
And you better
And I think that is, you know, if you're excited for an interview, you're excited after the interview, that's a sign to pause. Because here's the deal. Excitement, folks, is not a hiring metric. Evidence is. And that goes to the whole gut feeling, particularly if you're somebody who has an outgoing personality or likes outgoing people.
Right.
That's how people end up in cults. It is. Willie H. looked at me crazy, but it is. Show me a non-charismatic, if you talk to pre-cult people who made it out of the cult, they're going to tell you that so-and-so I was just drawn to him. It was like I was the only person in the room. Great politicians do this.
Right.
That's what you say about Clinton.
Yeah.
So if Bill Clinton talked to you, he could be in a room with 10,000 people. While he's talking to you, you felt like you were the only person in the world.
Yeah.
And that some of that's God-given, some of that's skilled, some of that. I mean, listen, how else do you get Clinton action in the White House? How do you think that happens? No charisma?
Right.
No, I mean, what?
Right.
So, I mean, it is. It's and you know, so much of sales, so much of this world is like dating, right? You know, if you do a post-mortem a lot of times in relationships, you know, particularly with women, you know, what happened? You know, everything started out great. He was so nice, he was this, and then he turned into a terror. Right. You know, and then his personality came out, and this happened, right? That was the great interview. Right. With the poor track record.
Correct. Yes.
Right? So, they have sites now that, like, thankfully I don't have this problem, but, you know, where they're like dating histories of like men, like the women who dated you will post about you. Like you can look up the record and like, oh, he was a jerk and he did this. And he used to tell me this line and that line. Like, and it's like, yeah. Thankfully I'm not in that.
Oh my goodness.
I'm not in that game. So, you know, here's the challenge. I mean, look at your last bad hire, you know, identify where you got sold. Right. You know, instead of where you validated. And then just kind of rebuild. I mean, that's a nice thing. This can start new tomorrow. Right. Or the next time you're hiring somebody or sourcing freelancer, you're on Upwork, you're trying to hire a freelancer. Right. You can start now. You can make changes. So, you know, you can rebuild the process so this never happens again because you know, the right hires, of course, are there to help you grow your business, but the wrong ones can quietly, see, it's quiet. They can quietly kill it. Mm-hmm. And then you don't know. It's eroded. The business is gone. Right. I mean, I knew this guy his restaurant, and he let the front of the house guy was telling people, you know, it was too late for delivery and they didn't have time today, and just eroding his business.
That bad.
Right? Not the front, and he didn't know exactly what was going on. He's like, well, why aren't so-and-so ordering from us anymore? Oh, probably because what's name didn't feel like doing it. So he's like, oh, we're 2 hour wait. Right. 2 hour wait. There was no wait. But they didn't feel like doing it. So those people, and those people acting on behalf of your business, I mean, that's what I don't understand. you want to underpay the receptionist, you want to underpay your phone people or whatever. I don't understand that. These are the frontline, the customer service folks are the people interacting.
Right.
The person that's talking to 20 of my customers every day, I don't know. It might be more important than the middle manager.
Right.
That gets me the reports. Why
do
you have to wreck this company? Because it's wreckable. Good. I like that. That's always going to be the tee of. I get to say it.
Yes.
I get to say that. He teases it out, and I get to say that part.
That first point of contact is so important. The first person that talks to your customers, the first person that talks to your clients is so important. So you talk about the receptionist, you talk about who answers the phone, you talk about who seats the people at your restaurant. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, we're going to leave it there on the employee side. Now, as a business owner, if you're looking for ways to market yourself, market your business, one of the best ways to do that is to create media opportunities or PR opportunities for you to share your expertise, video in the format. And one of the most powerful ways I know in 20 years of consulting is the power of an interview and the ability for you to create an opportunity to explain what you do without having to do it as a sales pitch, but to let other professionals extract the information from you to make those points so you can answer the simple question that every prospect has for anybody they hire, which is, can this person help me?
Right.
And can they solve my problem? And we've created a vehicle and a product and a service to do that. Lon, tell us a little bit about that before we get out of here.
Yeah, and thank you, Corey, because what you're talking about is authority.
Yes.
And authority is real, Corey. Right now, people are deciding if they trust you before they ever reach out to you or apply to work with you. And if you don't look like the authority, you don't even get the opportunity. That's exactly why we created the Obvious Choice interview. It's a professionally produced TV-style interview that showcases your expertise, your story, and how you help your clients. So when your prospects find you, you're not just another option, you're the obvious choice. You can use it on your website, social media, in your sales processes, in your hiring outreach, anywhere trust matters. If you want to see what it looks like and how it works, head over to obviouschoiceinterview.com.
All right. I think we're going to leave it there. LG.
Thanks for coming. Thanks for coming back. And next time, bring a friend.
That's right. This has been another episode of the Grow Business Podcast. On behalf of myself, Corey Mosley, LG Lon Graham, LG 007 Lon Graham, and Willie H. Thanks for joining us, and we will see you next week. Willie H., take us out. Yeah, everybody can think of that one person.
Oh, yeah.
Or more. He's like, I don't know. And the crazy part is sometimes it's immediate. Like the problems start right out of the gate.
Right. It's like an on-off switch.
Yeah.
Right.
Like they got the job now. All of a sudden they're late. They're calling out. All these problems have come up. And then you're caught in the chasm of, well, how much time do I get? Oh, they did just started. They got to get acclimated. Are they properly trained? And that just elongates the time.
Correct.
And then you still end up at the same destination. So, I think you got to trust the gut too.
There's a huge element of truth to that, Corey. And the more you've been doing it, the more your gut reminds you of what you've dealt with already.
Yeah.
And so patterns.
Yeah. So you got to have your own self-awareness about the situation too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good show.
It's a big.